evening, Mauro. How are you?
Hello, good evening. Fine, thanks. How are you there?
Yeah, I'm already pumped for a topic I follow like on the side stream since I read my first Kevin Mitnick book. And now I'm excited, and so I will stop my video, mute my microphone, and leave the stage all to you. We'll be back.
Okay,
Bye.
thanks. So, can you see my screen? I guess you can already.
Yes.
So, we are in 1978, and this guy is called Stanley. This guy is an engineer, like many of us connected to this conference, and is a consultant. His job is mainly the one of going to the customer, running backup about servers, and that's it, really simple. The point is that the backup that is taking are not like the backup like we can imagine today's, like with the RAID server, etc., but are taken over a tape, the annual technology. And the customer is working for is a bank based in California. And this bank is called Security Pacific National Bank. What happened? Day by day, while he's taking his tapes, so he start to record all the things, so taking backup after backup. This task is quite long, and he noticed that in the same room when he's doing his job, there is a table. And over this table, there is a list of books, manual that describe several things about the company. One of these books actually is he noticed that there are the procedures about how to make wiring. So how the bank is implementing the procedure to make the payment. Because he realized that the server where he's taking backups is the server that is used to approve international payment, so that are running from US to Switzerland, Austria, and other countries. What does he notice? Day by day, studying this book, see how is working the procedure, and he see that this procedure not only there is a string, a token that should be used as validation of the wiring, but inside this string there is also something that is implemented to avoid the reply attacks. So this string that we can take like what today we will call a kind of one-time password that is valid only for 1 day, is shared between all the employees every morning. So the goal of this string is that we know that the manager every morning share this information between the employees, and what happened that they know that every day they have a fresh information how to approve data. So once you understand day after day that this information is changing, one day he enter before the normal business hour to work, he do quickly his job, and he leave at 3 p.m. What happened after? So our Stanley goes to a phone box, so something that is not at all associated to him, take some coins, and he call the desk, the service desk of the bank. He do what is called pretexting. So he said that he claims that he is an internal employee, Mark Donovan, and he said that I would like to approve a transaction to send to something to a bank account in Switzerland. And guess what? Just a couple of days before, he activated a bank account in Zurich. So the lady on the other side asked about information. This information contain which is the normal procedure to the normal string that should be applied in order to approve the transaction, plus the OTP. Even if some information are missing, Stanley doesn't lose his control. He said that I'll be right back. He also impersonate another person, and he call another technical guy, another clerk, and he asked, could you please tell me which is this information about this office, etc.? He got the information. he go back to the initial clerk and is able, with this simple trick, to move to his bank account $10.2 million. What happened right after? He take a plane, he move to Switzerland and arrive to Zurich. Once he arrived to Zurich, he withdraw part of this amount for a total amount of 8.1 million and convert it in diamonds, thanks to the help of some Russian guys. Okay, so what did you learn from this story? Here we have our Stanley, that we will call Stale Mark Rifkin. That was one of the first social engineering that we had in this domain. And without the help of some time to read a book and 2-3 coins that he spent in the phone box, he was able, without harming any person, without taking any computer, keyboard, and etc., without taking any weapon, knife, or gun, to make one of the biggest robbery of the history. And the bank in particular was called Security Pacific National Bank. That is a bank that doesn't exist anymore, that it was based in Los Angeles. Just for your information, unfortunately, once Stanley come back to, even if coming back to US, he was able to hide the diamonds inside his belt, so pass all the controls. Once was in US, start to convert this money, he was catched and he finished in prison. So let's start. My name is Mauro Verderosa. I'm an authorized ISC Square CSSP and CCSP trainer, and I'm an IT security specialist. This means that I'm both enabled by one of the most important entity of cybersecurity, ISC Square, both to give training for the cybersecurity expert and also for cloud expert. I'm the CEO of the company PSYND, Identity and Access Management. We are also ISC Square official training provider. I'm the founder of the Swiss Cybersecurity, that is one of the biggest community of cybersecurity in Switzerland. And I'm also the president of the IC Square Swiss Roman chapter. Towards About PSYND is a Swiss cybersecurity company based in Geneva. Normally, we are specialized in identity and access management. We love everything that we do concerning cybersecurity training, etc. And as I was mentioning, we are the only ISC Square official training provider in Switzerland, both for CSSP and CCSP. And about Swiss Cybersecurity, this is a no-profit organization that has the goal to collect as more as cybersecurity and to share knowledge without in a no-lucrative form between experts in Switzerland. The topic that we are going to discuss, of course, are just for presentation only, and the idea is that you are going to understand what we are talking about. And the idea is that you should understand how to recognize an attack, how the issue could present, and which are the steps. The idea is not to inspire anybody to implement a cybercrime after this presentation. In the moment that you're speaking about cybercrimes, it's important that we start to list which are the typologies of cybercrimes. The first typologies are crimes based on financial. So this means that are all those crimes where the attacker has as a main goal the one of obtain a financial benefit. This means that the person would like, for example, steal some money, implement a fraud, or making anything that could generate a personal benefit for this person. Another kind of typology of crime are the one business-oriented. The business means that there is a company that would like, for example, gain a share, gain something against a natural competitor that they have on the market. And what happened is that this company, for example, would like to steal a formula, would like to steal algorithm, something else, or, for example, could be also interested to damage the reputation of the other company on the market. Just imagine that if there is, for example, company 1 and company 2, where company 1 may be interested to, for example, damage the reputation, say that these guys are not treating the data of the customer in a correct way, etc. Another typology are crime that are based on political, they have political reason as an asset. So what does it mean? For example, we can have a specific guy that would like to win an election, etc. And for example, could try to manipulate, gain more vote, etc., manipulating Twitter or manipulating any other social media, or again, try to damage somebody else. Another type of crime are the one ideological. Ideological, be careful, that doesn't mean only like somebody that is inspired to do something, etc., but could be people that without focusing on personal benefit, they are driven. These one are the guys that normally are the stronger to fight. Here we could imagine, for example, somebody that could implement an attack due to religious reason. So let's imagine somebody that would like just think about 9/11, or could also be people like, for example, Greenpeace. So it doesn't mean that are normally people that are moved by bad intention, but of course the outcome of what they are doing could arrive to be a crime. And finally, we have the one that are called script kits, and are people that just generate, found, for example, some software online, would like to try against, they don't have a specific purpose except like just to test how these stuff are working. And they could, for example, generate that, create that a business could be corrupted and stopped. So we are speaking about here social engineering. What did we learn from the lesson of Stanley? What we learn is that through social engineering, we can arrive to we can implement one of the crime that we saw just before: financial, political, ideological, business, or the one of script kits. But we don't. It's not necessary that we have IT knowledges. Even, of course, the IT knowledge can help us. So, in particular, the social engineering is like definition, psychological manipulation of people into performing action or divulging confidential information. So what does it mean, this, to make a long story short? Means that we have an actor that is put on one side that would like to gain from us, for example, exfiltrate information that, of course, this guy is not entitled to obtain this know-how, and go simply against us, showing us this scenario in a way that doesn't look like. So this, it's we know thousands of examples. That could be like the email where we receive we can receive an email where, for example, we won the lottery. We know that we have a DHL package waiting for us, etc. So the guy simply imagine that what is presented in front of him is something totally legal, fine, etc. But behind there is the trap. Like Stefan was mentioning before, one of the most known social engineer in history is Kevin Mitnick. That, okay, is also known like one of the most known hackers, but it's he took like social engineering and made a science of it. The main idea in the moment that we use this way to present a reality that doesn't correspond to the truth. The idea is that between the step that we have is the one of installing what is called a Trojan horse inside the premises, for example, of our victim. This, for example, will give us the opportunity in a second phase to gain access to a system or to do other things. Normally, Trojan horse is everything that you can find that could be attached to an email, etc. If you think that these stuff are, let's say, too much easy, you should just consider some of the bigger impact that we had, some famous example in the past years. We have RSA that, like, you know, it's a company that makes its business making cybersecurity, and it was hardly impacted now, almost 8-9 years ago. And what happened? Although they make multi-factor authentication, so they should they sell device like the one that the secure ID, the one that you see in the slide. What happened is that some of the people were click on the wrong email, and clicking on the wrong email they give the opportunity to attackers to enter in the system and also modify all the seeds that were in the RSA tokens. So this means that the RSA receive a big impact, a multi-millionaire impact, because they got all the RSA token invalidated. Another well-known example is the one of Sony. It also an example that it's dated now, it's 5 years ago. And also this started with using a social engineering technique. So a guy clicked on, let's say, unfortunately, the right guy clicked on the wrong email. And this, it's even if Sony at the beginning tried to deny what really happened, in a couple of days, the attackers started to publish the list of the employees of Sony. After they started to publish in website, which were the salary of the management, they start to publish all content that were protected by copyrights, so movies and other things, until Sony had to take, let's say, of course, they lost a lot of money. And let's say they had to take precaution to avoid these things to repeat. Now, until now, we said that which were the consequences, but we didn't spend the time to say exactly how a social engineering attack is working. So in order to implement this, we have several ways. The first is what is called pretexting. Pretexting means that the attacker is acting like in a way that he wear the hat of somebody else. So long story short, this means that the attacker will try to say that he's who is not. So just imagine that the classical email that until a couple of years ago, everybody of us were receiving, like our girlfriend from Ukraine that were asking us some money to get her passport renew, or our friend that it was the king of Nigeria that was asking us, proposing us to deposit his personal money into our bank account for some reason not totally clear, or also other things like some example that we're gonna go later. Another way how to implement social engineering is doing diversion theft. This means that the attacker is creating a situation, for example, where they would like to put our attention on something else and not where we would like our attention should be. Diversion theft, for example, is I don't know how many times you saw these, let's say, some classical American movies where we have this old guardian that is protecting a gate, and after arrive this nice and attractive blonde lady that is taking his attention, etc., while from the other door, from the other building, or maybe entering from a window, one of our let's say one of the people that are preparing the attack with her are entering, stealing the money, etc. Another way is the phishing. The phishing is really well known. Phishing, let's say, is the most common technique of social engineering. So here we receive a lot of emails, etc. And many people now today are easily filtered by email servers. So if we consider the amount of phishing emails that are going into the that are filtered, many people think that are still not don't really present a threat for us. But what you have to consider is that to send emails is something really simple. So it means that the probability of the attacker to suppose that you are sending 1 million email, what we will see, like in a few slides, we know that we don't need to get 100%, 80%, or not either 50%. Many times the attacker just bet on the fact that just one person that could also represent the 0.001% of the people will click. And if this person is somebody interesting, the attack could be implemented. The money could be stolen, etc. On the other side, we have spear phishing or whaling. Spear phishing is a technique where we really target a person and we want to go exactly in one direction. So for example, this could be done exactly against an IT administrator or somebody that we know that could have is close to a person that has a specific knowledge or has a specific access right. And on the other side, we have whaling. Whaling is another kind of spear phishing attack, but it is focused on what is which are the C-levels, so CEO, CFO, CIO, etc., etc. The list is long, but are all these people that have a big power in their hands. So taking control of their account could be really critical for a company. After this, we have IVR or phishing. IVR, there are several examples that we will not go through, but we will see some example of phishing. Phishing is the same what we have with phishing, with the difference that is done doing phone calls. An alternative of phishing and phishing is called smishing, that is done sending SMS. After we have baiting, baiting is also a technique that is really interesting, where the attacker would like, we will see after some technique that are used by the attacker, would like to trigger the attention or the curiosity of the attacker, of the victim, offering something. So, for example, baiting you see in several movies, etc. For example, you may find a USB just in the parking in front of your office, and of course is written, these are the sexy photo that I took with my wife, or these are the salaries of the people, these are the people that in the upcoming 2 months will be fired. The idea is that you leave, this USB will be left or in the morning or lunchtime, because in the moment that we take the USB, the first computer that we will find, that in this case will be the one of our office, we will go there, we will plug, and the attack will be triggered. We will see later in some other example about this. Quid pro quo. This is another attack, another technique that is used by social engineering. This is we create a situation with the person. So, for example, we made this. It was something that it was largely used in the past. So we call somebody, we say that we are from IT department, we help them to do something, and after we try to trigger them to create a situation where say, I help you to do this, now I will lose, of course, suppose that you call somebody and you say that I'm from IT assistance, and what I'm doing is that I will do all the necessary to unlock something. In the moment that we are doing this, we know that everybody, let's say, apart maybe from IT guys, has a problem on a computer, has some configuration, maybe the computer is slow, some application to be installed, etc. We help, but after we say we would like something in exchange. And finally, this is a really classical tailgating, piggybacking. This means that when a person is, for example, is badging inside their company, a person is just following this guy, trying to do not badge. Now, all this list of attacks could be implemented in different way. If you check about which are all these techniques are triggering, because consider that in this case, we are not manipulating a firewall. We are not manipulating a software, a switch, or the access control panel of a door, of a safe, etc. Here we are dealing with the humans. And unfortunately, like all the social engineering knows, even it's really easy to patch a server, but it's really difficult to patch a human. So what we do it in this case, we could use several techniques. The first is authoritativeness, means that we can call somebody, we can get there, and we start to give order to put psychological pressure, and based on who we have on the other side, the guy could be willing to support you only because he will be scared, etc. We could use the guilt. So suppose that we connect to a server, we could check, for example, that a guy spent too much time, for example, on Facebook during the working hours. We say that, yes, I know this, etc. I know that you are following one of your colleagues because maybe you like her, etc., even if you are married. And starting from this, even if looks that is not something that important, this is something that could motivate the guy to collaborate. We could generate panic. So say that you click, you remember the last day when you just say that you use another browser because you didn't want to be checked, and we try to put more pressure on this person. We could use ignorance. So the guy doesn't really know which are the consequences of what he's doing. the desire. So imagine, again, this is the typical example of our Ukrainian girlfriend. So that she said that, okay, I will come there to visit you, don't worry, etc. The greed, so many times we receive offer of bitcoins, of money. Just to tell you, just today I received $8.6 million from somebody from UK. And the only condition that I had just to click on the link. And compassion, gratitude, and good feeling. Now, let's see some examples. Let's start with phishing. Everybody knows phishing. We know that this is a classical example. We have, this is an email where I receive about how to get my refund from my bank account. So this is really simple to spot, but so of course we see that the account is Gmail. So let's say for us, it should be quite simple to understand that this is unrealistic, also the number of that is there. But be careful to the technique. Here, okay, we can also check that normally say check if there are some mistype, etc. But act now to claim your refund. Like we said, be quick, don't think, just move. Okay, the idea is that the technique is that we need to put pressure. Don't let the person to understand that he has an alternative. Please, your banking information, so share with me the information, etc. After we can have, of course, a website that it's, let's say, hardly credible. Reply within 3 days. Pressure. If you didn't see, move. And after we can also find some other example. For example, we see the extension, the prefix of the number is not, for example, in our case, is not 41 like Switzerland, but is a 91 like India, etc. Now, this is phishing, looks really easy. Let's start to make things a little bit more complicated. You will find this video. This is Jessica Clark. This is a well-known Visher. So what happened? This is just classical example. Jessica is a challenge. This the guy that is making an interview, and what she's doing. The guy accepted the challenge. So she just arrived to this phase because they get the meeting. She knows name and last name, and she also knows the phone number. So the tactic is that she calls the ISP. So she called the phone company, and she said that dear person, say I am the wife. How is possible that please help me because I need to check the bills, I need to make the payment, etc. In the background, she turned on a video where we hear a baby crying. And what she do in this case? First, she's using pretesting. So she claims to be who is not. Second, we move to compassion the other person. And by luck, in this case, what you can find is easily this video online. She speak with the person and she say that you see, she tried to create compassion. So she say that, it's you are also a wife, you understand, the men are done in this way, they don't share these things. My guy every time forgot, even if we get married, didn't add. So she insists, and she try in many situations how to break into the account. She speak with a broken voice. She raised the volume of the baby that is crying until she's able to get the account. She's able to understand, discover which is the email used by the guy. She put her email instead. She's able to reset the phone, the password used for the account. So she's able to lock out the journalist, and she get full access to the invoices, the people that call, etc. So here, just a list of the information that she's able to get. And keep in mind, apart the voice of the baby, everything was just done using a phone. Okay, so blah blah blah. So exclusive access to the account, able to reset the password, additional user to have access. So in this case, is herself, and she's able to cut this guy out. Let's go quickly to another example. In this case, we see what is an example of spear phishing. So we target a real guy. This is another David Kennedy. Also, this video you will find easily online. In this case, we have same scenario. The guy is spoofing the phone of a company. It's really easy, especially also today in Switzerland, but let's say in the US is more common because everybody is using VoIP. So what do? Implement spoofing, call So the IT admin see that he said that he needs to open a website that he do because he's a marketing guy. It's a little bit stupid, doesn't really understand what is his website, etc. What do? And show the link to the guy. The admin will click from his desk to this link, but even if the victim doesn't know, is installing a Trojan horse that will give fully access to admin power to this guy. In this case, we don't need, we will see in a moment what is it. The access, what is generated, is direct. So we don't need to implement we can gain administrative access from outside directly without doing any lateral movement. And is the only stuff that he gained, but I guess it's enough. No, now that we see some things, let's start to go a little bit more in deep. So the attack normally is performed following a couple of steps. The first step is the reconnaissance. So this means that we need to understand who is our target, and we start to make a study. Consider that this study, this is a general, is does not belong only to the phishing, to the social engineering. This is something that could be also technical, etc. But in the first step, we don't really touch the victim. So imagine that, for example, we can get information through social media, newspaper. We can understand if a particular customer or other make an acquisition, or a guy was promoted to a specific position, etc. So based on which is the situation, you can address different hot. After we have scanning, so in this case, we start, if it's technical, means that what you're doing, we connect directly to the system. That could be like scan a network, discover which are the port, exposing, etc. In the case of an attacker, we could start, for example, to get in touch with the guy, make a call, send an email, like friendly, also using spoof domain, etc. After, we have lateral movement. What is lateral movement? Lateral movement is that we have to consider that which are the if we want to get, for example, IT access. Let's just see the example that we just saw 1 minute ago. What happened? If in this case the social engineering was able to catch directly the administrator, but this is not always easy. So what we could do in this case, instead of asking this guy to click on the malicious link, we could try to point, for example, a secretary or any person that doesn't have the necessary knowledge to understand what you're doing. Keep in mind that what we said before is that for us is a point for the attacker is important that we play on ignorance. So if a person could download an image, etc., that is, for example, hiding malware. Another step is exfiltration. So we start to obtain information. We perform the attack. And of course, depends which are the attack that we need, how we want to implement. Assault, this is not always used. This really depends by which is the victim and which is the goal. Because in some cases, suppose that we do an attack that is considering social. We want, for example, take down a business. In this specific case, what we will do is that we make the assault, but consider that we just making exfiltration. So we want just to discover which are the formulas, the algorithm, the documentation of our victim, of our competitors. We will be no interest to run an assault, because in this case, if they don't detect that we enter in their perimeter, we can keep extracting information. So if the guy doesn't realize, we will keep stealing. And finally, obfuscation. So what we do, we cover our steps over the snow. So let's see some other example. I took an example from Mr. Robot. This is you can get all information from Prime Video. So you have an account, etc. I don't give this detail. The example that we are going to visit in now, it's just to put all these things that we see. We have a really complete example that could be just fine in the first episode. So just to give you some background, here we have this guy, what happened, go to the psycholog because there's some different problem that is not important, and this lady is called Krista. So he detected that this lady is sad, and there are some other things they would like to discover more. For some reason, he understood that the person that is this sadness, and you would like to play like, let's say, like an hero, is generating by her personal situation, and it's a lover or a person with which she has a relationship. So what do our Mr. Robot? First of all, start to follow her on Instagram. So, and what happened? He saw one evening that said that I'm here with my dear lover, with my partner, etc., and we are celebrating our night in the restaurant. So, starting from this point, we start to identify who is our target name and which is the face this guy has. They are in a restaurant. So what we do, we move to the restaurant and we see them, of course, by luck, what happens in movies, that the chance wants that they are just in front of the window. And what do this guy in this case? Stay under the window. What does it mean this? This is a really important phase of an attack because the criminals, the people that do not only social engineering but hacking in general, are people, let's say, with a lot of time, because you know that what you are getting could be something extremely big and extremely important. So one of the things that an attacker, one of the first things that learn is that you should learn how to be patient. So this guy stayed there and spy these two people having dinner. What happened right after? These guys leave. So just in case there was some doubts, we understand because they kiss each other, which is the relationship. So means that we keep collecting information. And voila, what happened? The guy takes the taxi. Taking the taxi, as you can appreciate, we from every taxi there is every time on the door the phone number of the company, and like what we can appreciate from this slide, we can also read which is the code of the taxi, that is 5BY2. What happened? We called the company, and really simple. We said that, dear company, I'm sorry, I lost my wallet, that I was in the taxi 5BY2, and I would like to recover my. So don't worry, I don't need the wallet to be brought me back. Just tell me where the taxi will arrive, and I will go to pick up directly from there. We just discover where this person is living. So in this moment, in this phase, we start to collect all the data. So our envelope of information start to grow, and grow. Now that we discover the address and we know that this person just got back home, we also go as well. Chance wants that we find that this our victim is bringing the dog to pee downstairs, and while he speak with the dog, he say Flipper, Fritzy, or something like this, said that, okay, we also discover how it's called the pet. What happened after? We speak with this guy. We start to say that some excuses, and remember, moving to compassion. So say, listen, I got my phone discharged, I need to contact my mother, etc. Could you please lend me your phone? We get the phone. We see which is from the application on the phone, which is the bank account that this guy is using. And instead of calling, of course, the mother, we call ourselves. So calling himself, he discovered also the phone number of the victim. And like, remember the phase of the attack, the last step is obfuscation. What he do? He clean the evidences that are left over the mobile. Now, consider that we already have quite good information about our victim in this moment. What happened? We go back home, we connect in front of our computer, and we open the Facebook page of Krista Gordon. So what happened? From Krista Gordon, we check our friends, voila, we also find this guy. So we know before his first name because he saw before. We can discriminate because we saw in person. Now we also discover his last name. Let's make a recap. We have name, the face, address, bank account, phone number, last name. What happened? We call this guy because we know which is the bank. We say that, listen, dear Mister, we call on behalf of the bank. We know that your account has been compromised. So what we will do is that please reset your account to give this information and to be sure that you your identity is correct, so please provide me your door number, which is your favorite football club. The last question is about which is the pet name, but we just discover before when we cross in the street. And arrive to this point, the phishing is completed. So what did we learn today? We saw several use cases. We saw that an attack could be performed in different way. There are the attack normally is performed because we take advantage of one vulnerability that is the human, and the human, keep in mind, that is more difficult to patch compare how much is difficult to patch a server. So it doesn't mean that we take a bundle patch from the vendor site and we resolve the problem of our colleagues or employees. And what we learn in this moment is that social engineering is not about IT, but is not about how to take a more advanced version of the software, of an hardware, etc. But is really to focus on our colleagues and people that should be correctly trained in order to recognize and identify an attack in the really first phases. So it's also important that we never should underestimate the importance of the information that we could check. So in the moment that we are, for example, running a big business, that could be, for example, an important pharmaceutical, a bank, or other things where we know that we are getting important information, we should keep in mind that not only the information that are quite evident that are important, but many times the good attacker also from small information, like we saw now, the checking just which is the pet name, or which is for example a photo on Instagram, and also claiming showing a photo and showing which is the first name of a person, could be important. So also these details are important if we want to understand which is the global picture that in front of us. While unfortunately we are driven that we are able to recognize a picture only when we see a key detail that could be somebody asking us which is the password, can you give me my phone, your credit card number, etc., etc. So all this information are finally capable to give the whole picture to us. And so in the moment that we think what we learned until today, is social engineering actually working? Unfortunately, yes, because we need to consider that the attacker could use several channels, and doesn't mean that for example, if you work for again for a bank or from another institution, you could be in the situation where the only way that you could be attacked is once you are behind your desk. But if behind you there is for example, you are protecting a big know-how, or you are protecting, for example, a lot of knowledge for your customer, or for example, through your action are moved several thousand of million, like what we saw at the beginning of this presentation, you should always be aware that this could happen. And also consider, like the example of what we said before, when we launch, for example, also phishing emails, what the attacker is betting is not that we will have several people, thousands of people that will click on the link. Many times, if our rate of success is 0.001%, if in this 1% we will find people that could click, could be already drastically the impact that we could generate. What I could suggest you, it's important that create training that should change the company mentality, especially if you are in situation that in position in your company or your business life or usual life that could be critical. So some bad people could be interested to really get a specific advantage from taking access to your asset. It's important that you should every time aware about the risk. So in the moment that somebody from outside may ask you, could you please modify this? Could you please click on that? Be every time aware that you should understand in every step what are you doing, okay? Because ignorance should be never allowed. It's important that the training could also support the company or your habit to train internal process. And training is the best advice that I could give you. So thank you. And if there are any questions.
Yes, there are any questions. Do you have a favorite patent? What is its name?
No,
that
name,
was just I was just
no,
fishing for information.
let's say Flipper.
Flipper. Okay. No, there are. There is one post which says, "Love your talk, best ever on social engineering."
Thanks.
Nice. Then there is, "What an amazing talk to finish the first day. Thank you so much."
My pleasure.
Then something. The first question is, which is actually there for you to answer. It's, in your opinion, does attention to privacy help to protect against SE attacks or social engineering attacks?
Yes, because what we need is privacy compliance, etc. Let's say not only privacy, but to be in a company, for example, and to have a strong reinforcement of the policies. For example, me, I'm not an IT guy, so I don't understand these things. But what I need just to do, just read the manual, even if I don't understand some things. To list, for example, normally in companies today, we see through tools that are called DLP. So what do these tools? Generate data classification. So as I said, even if I'm new to the company, I'm not that IT guy, etc., having these things, these tools could help me to understand how to behave. What we find today in most of the companies, for example, we see that on our first day, we can receive, for example, an email or a small book that could be like a book, let's say, could be a small carton paper that tell us how we should treat every document. So in the case is appearing a social security number, we know that we should be careful. If it's appearing something that we also see on the flyer, we know that we can share.
Okay. Then there is a comment from N. Dot, very obfuscated. Mr. Robot, and then a heart. So somebody watches the same TV series and enjoys the same games and stories in series, I guess.
Yes, it's let's say Mr. Robot just to make this comment. At the beginning was a little bit especially me. I start just to see, and most of the attack, just to be careful, to be clear, are quite realistic. So even if when we see this example of the social engineering, the guy that followed the attacks, etc., don't believe that this is far from reality. This is extremely close, especially when it's done in several steps. Of course, it can take more time, but the victim, in many cases, doesn't neither understand what is happening around, and sometimes discover too much late. And in many cases, the person will never understand that it was a victim of a social engineering.
Mm-hmm. So, and then there's a question from Niket. I want to start a career in security. Which certification is better to start a career? E-Council Certified Ethical Hacker or ICSS?
Normally, it's always better to start, let's say, with experience. Don't focus on certification. The idea is because the concept that a certification is something, I speak like trainer, that is a brick that you should add on your knowledge. What I suggest to everybody, do start, maybe you could start to make some vendor certification that are easy to get. And once you start to get a little bit more knowledgeable, I would suggest to invest in some certification, let's say serious. But start with some, there are today There are several certifications, especially if you are working alone. If you want to form yourself, there are something from I don't know, maybe some vendor like Cisco, also Oracle, or some other vendor that are giving. And normally it's many cases are also free, but let's say are more a little bit polluted by the side because they just try to sell a know-how from a vendor, but are still good if you want to have to start.
Okay, thank you. Also, same person also says, great session. Thanks for valuable time and inputs.
My pleasure.
Then there is a person who calls him or herself some guy with a name. Very nice presentation, helped me a lot with my diploma work. Okay, you actually did some work for somebody else.
Put me in the credits, please.
You see, Mr. Guy in the credits with Mauro. So can you learn to be a social engineer to be better protected? Or is that something that you are just born with?
No, this is like what we see before. It's really important that people understand. Maybe I don't know if I stress enough this concept, but what is important is that consider that the pattern that is used by the attacker normally is always the same. So the study social engineering could help you to understand when one of these attacks is happening, okay? And if you can block before you arrive to a certain point, you can still save everything. And of course, if this happen in the company, it's referred to the CISO, and if so the person in charge for security in your company. And if happen in other situation, for example, outside, it's you should ask normally to the public force, so police, etc. Even if I have to say that we've been contacted several times, but people that were victim of scam, fraud, and other things. And let's say, unfortunately, we saw that this is happening more and more every day. So also for the private citizens.
And this was the last question from them. So the audience. I have one question. When you were young, did you always wanted to have a career in IT security, or how did you actually get into IT security?
Okay, when I get my first computer, I started to. I guess that after a month, I started to understand how a computer was working. I start to develop, of course, when you are really young, let's say some way how to understand how I can pass a message between a server in an encrypted way. And I develop, of course, without any study, without any background, but of course, I didn't neither have internet. I discovered how I make communicate to different computer, let's say to create a way how to encrypt things. And of course, after you start to understand is that how could malware work, understand how these things could move. And after, starting with this, I start to develop a passion. So me, it's like what I say about myself. I am real passionate about this domain. So I didn't choose for career. Me, I just chose because it's something that for me is funny, and I dedicate 100%. Like knows everybody that knows me in person.
Yeah. You are also running this meetup, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
This meetup normally are with this is called with this association that I showed before, Swiss-cybersecurity. It's normally it's active in Swiss romand, so in the French Swiss. So if online there is somebody that it's even if it's not from French Swiss, because also lately we are also giving some webinar that we just get people that would like to share their know-how, etc. Feel free to contact us. You find both in the website and on LinkedIn. You can ask to join the group, send us eventually a message, and we will be happy to share something with you.
Okay, great. So thank you for your super cool talk and your
Thank you.
energetic story. This was really great fun. And for the audience, we now can wave and say bye-bye, because we are closing the day, and tomorrow we will be back with machine learning. And yeah, have a good evening.
Thanks
And
everybody for joining, and
thank
see you
you.
next time.
See you
Feel free
next
to
time.
contact me on Twitter, join our website, or you can also find me on LinkedIn. But if you try to add me, specify that you come from this conference. Thank you. Then have a nice evening. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.